Hello everyone and welcome to another Scots Whay podcast, and today I'm joined by Robert Kilpatrick. Hello Robert.
Hey Ali, how you doing?
I'm good, and Robert is the General Manager of the Scottish Music Industry Association, but so much more. That only begins to scratch the surface, I think. So tell us a little bit about your role with them.
Yeah, so the Scottish Music Industry Association, or SMIA as it's also known, is a trade body and membership organisation that exists to represent and develop the music industry in Scotland. So two quite broad aims. The SMIA was launched in 2008, mainly due to the fact that there wasn't a vehicle to provide a unified voice for Scotland's music industry. So it's evolved quite significantly since being established in 2008. But yeah, we mainly exist, like I said, to represent and develop the industry. So on the representation side, that's about recognising, speaking to the industry, finding out their needs and wants, and channeling that through to public agencies like Creative Scotland, Highlands Enterprise, Scottish Enterprise, etc., as well as government. And then on the development side, that's about trying to allow the music industry to recognise and fulfil its value, I guess. So focusing on developing the business side of the music industry in Scotland, as you'll know as well as me, Ali, we've got an abundance of amazing creative talent in Scotland, but over the years, largely through lack of resource and lack of finance to put towards it, there hasn't been as many opportunities to develop the business side of the industry to allow Scotland's music industry to be as competitive as it could be. So that's kind of like our main mission with the SMIA, to retain as much musical talent, both business and creative, within Scotland, and increase the supply chain and ultimately bring more revenue to the industry in Scotland.
So it's basically a full-time job all the time. I mean, that's something that is clearly ongoing.
It's my job is 5 full-time jobs all the time. Probably, especially just now, as a support organisation for the music industry, and at a time like this, it's incredibly challenging. Unlike there's a lot of organisations similar to the SMIA, but their remits are maybe a lot more kind of focused than ours. So, for example, the Music Managers Forum, who represent managers, or the Music Publishers Association, who represent publishers. We are anyone who works in any capacity in music in Scotland. So that means that there's obviously a lot of similarities in terms of the needs and wants and challenges, but also some really dramatic differences. And for a small team, we are kept very, very busy trying to make the music industry better for everyone. Albeit that a one-size-fits-all approach is definitely something that we're still trying to work out ourselves. So yeah, it's a great job. No shortage of things to do, but something that I wholeheartedly care about, and have gladly flung all of me into over all the years I've been involved in it.
And so if there's someone listening to this now who are maybe in a band or just starting out or everything, what would be the best way to kind of find out what you do for them or what you could do for them?
So the best way is heading to the SMIA website, smia.org.uk. So as a membership organisation, we obviously represent our members, but luckily for anyone listening, you can join the SMIA for free. As a basic member, there's no cost to do so. It takes about 5 minutes to join on our website. And that's been the result of the SMIA becoming a regularly funded organisation, part of the Creative Scotland RFO network. We joined that in 2018. So prior to that, we applied for open project funding, as most people do, and our membership was only a paid thing. But since becoming regularly funded, we've managed to have this basic membership that's free. We now have over 3,000 members, all working across Scotland in different music industry roles. So whether you're in a band, whether you're an artist manager or a record label, whatever kind of capacity, whether you're working in or actually just wanting to work in music, joining the SMIA is a really, really great way to become part of a network and a community that ultimately is all about collaboration, cooperation and communication, and trying to strengthen the industry for the good of all.
Excellent. That sounds something that people should definitely know about if they don't already. So part of this is also the Scottish Arm of the Year Award, which you are also very much involved in. so much to talk about here, but the long list just has just come out, haven't it? Maybe talk through the process a bit, Robert. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, of course. So process for the SAY Award. So unlike a lot of awards where, you know, to be considered, there's a big meaty listing fee and a lot of barriers, I guess, before you can even get to a point where you can be considered. So the SAY Award is the SMIA's flagship project, and given that we exist to represent and develop the music industry in Scotland, the idea of there being any barriers to participation for something like the SAY Award is completely counterproductive to why we exist. So any album, as long as it meets the criteria, can be considered for the SAY Award, and you can submit an album to be considered for the SAY Award for free. There's no cost for doing so, and it can be submitted by the artist themselves, someone on their team, or even just a music fan. So the process, the SAY Award kicks off with the SAY Award website accepting eligible album submissions. So there's a set of criteria, 4 kind of key things an album has to meet in order to be deemed eligible. If it meets that criteria upon being submitted, it's added to the eligible albums list. So this year, from the 1st of July to the 31st of July was our submission period, and we had 362 eligible albums submitted, which last year was our record to date. Prior, obviously, to this year, that was 293 last year, and this year 362. So an incredible amount of albums, and that's essentially like crowdsourcing those albums, Ali. It's like calling on our community to be like, right, what are all the records that meet this? And even for our team who, you know, we listen to a lot of Scottish music, obviously, you'd hope so, given we work at the Scottish Music Industry Association, but yeah, we discover some amazing records every year through that process, and it's amazing, you know. It's a really, really great way for us to get a real insight into what is actually going on in terms of the recorded output across all genres in the country. So once all the eligible albums, obviously the closing date for that, so there's 362, it's then down to 100 impartial industry nominators to whittle that eligible album list down to a long list of 20 albums. So the way they do that is each nominator has to pick their top 5 albums off of the eligible albums list, and each one of their choices in their top 5 is assigned points. So first choice would get 10 points, second choice 8 points, third 6, etc. And once we have top 5s in from all 100 nominators, the highest scoring 20 albums make up the SAY Award long list. Mm-hmm. That long list, which is the stage we're at just now, that long list is promoted quite heavily over a 2-week period. And it's then reduced to a short list of 10 albums, 9 of which are chosen by the SAY Award judging panel, which changes every year, and we'll be announcing this year's panel shortly. Right. One album is chosen by music fans via a 72-hour public vote at sayaward.com. So all albums that enter the shortlist, they are automatically guaranteed a minimum prize of £1,000, and then the SAY Award judging panel reconvene to decide the winner, who scoops the big 20.
I mean, it's an incredible support for bands to get that kind of, you know, financial support. But if we break that, you know, the process is complex, but I think that's what makes it so democratic. You've got that eligible album list, and like you know, I think, oh, I listen to lots of Scottish music, and then you go through it, and it's great to discover these bands that, you know, just completely pass you by for whatever reason. The breadth, the types of music there, of course, over 300 odd albums, it's going to be diverse, but it really is sensational. And what gets me is not just the diversity, but the quality.
100%. Yeah, I mean, every year I'm in awe listening through the records. I feel such immense pride of the output of Scotland. The reason, man, like, just a wee anecdotal story to add in here, but when I left school, I went to Glasgow Uni. I was doing a business degree, philosophy and sociology as well, and I started a band very quickly, and within 6 months I dropped out uni and decided I wanted to be a rock star. And I applied to do music at Stowe College, and I remember at the time my dad being like to me, "You're chucking away a Glasgow Uni degree for Stowe College." My dad went to Stowe College, so for him it was like, you know, you need to do better than me type thing.
Sure, yeah.
But I was so set on doing it, and it's the best decision I ever made. Doing that course, I loved it. But my very, very first day at Stowe College studying music business, it was in 2012, the first year of the SAY Award. And my very first class, we were asked to listen to the shortlist and talk about why they were outstanding Scottish albums. So even from my first day of studying anything to do with music business or music industry, I was immersed right in the SMIA award, and it just feels really as if it was fate or as if it was magic that it's somehow swung round to be in my day-to-day life. It's man.
Well, obviously steeped in it from the beginning. And when you get to the long list stage, I should say, as one of the nominators, the kind of process, and the people I know that also do it, really take it seriously and really think carefully. If folk think we're just ticking boxes I mean, the agonies I go through trying to come up with the top 5, it's ridiculous. But it's a good thing. And I think, 100 people, how could you get more of a kind of across the board? Because people like myself that do maybe radio shows or do podcasts and stuff, but who else do you kind of get out? There's journalists and other people in the industry. And
yeah, it's quite a good cross section across Scotland's like kind of music and arts communities. The main kind of emphasis on the nominators is the impartiality element. So we would never pick someone from a record label, for example, or a management company, because they'll have a commercial interest. But in terms of the categories, I guess, of the nominators, we'll have people representing venues, promoters, music media, journalists. Yeah, right across the board in terms of the people who have their finger on the pulse in terms of what is coming out of Scotland, and yeah, from a recorded point of view. So every year we mix the nominators up a bit. It's really important, obviously, to have diverse voices in there, new voices in there. This year, for the second year in a row, I mean, we've always been pretty close to 50-50 anyway, but for the last 2 years, we've made it like, a requirement that our nominators are gender balance 50-50, same with our judging panel. And I think that when you actually think about the long lists over the last 2 years, the importance of doing that is proven in the list, because the last 2 years, I think especially, the SMIA Awards done a really, really good job in showcasing not only a diverse selection of Scottish albums, but a really, really great, outstanding selection of Scottish albums. Something for everyone, which is exactly what the SMIA Award should be. Nicola Meehan, one of our co-hosts, says that rather than a competition, the SMIA Awards are a celebration of Scottish music, and I definitely do think that. I think it's a bold, unifying platform to discover, celebrate, and champion all music across Scotland, rather than thinking about which album is better than the other. I never ever see it as that. It's very much a community type vibe celebration.
I mean, as usual, Nicola nails it. That's exactly what it is. It's people. A lot of people do have this concern in general, although I never hear it said about things like the Oscars and BAFTAs, but this idea that art shouldn't be a competition. But I think I've come to know over the years that the Scottish Album of the Year Award is exactly that. It's a celebration. Starting with the eligible albums, there'll be stuff, of course there's going to be stuff that people won't like, but you're bound to find something that you absolutely fall in love with. And I do every year, somebody I've never heard of before, and you just go, that is amazing. And I think to talk about the impartiality, that's really important as well, because people always think, this is the same people every year, or all that kind of stuff. Actually, from what I can tell, the majority of people that you get, they've got no skin in the game at all. It's absolutely, these are the bands that we love, and we're going to support them. And it's about support right across the awards.
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, the 100 nominators thing, it's amazing, in terms of, because it essentially is it's a nationwide consultation, You're pretty difficult when there's a lot of people furloughed and not checking emails. Chasing 100 people at any time is quite difficult, but this year it was to the wire, let's say that. But yeah, I mean, do you know what? Just on that, in terms of this year, as with everything this year, with budgets and capacity issues, organisations, the SMIA Award was something that me personally and the SMIA more generally, it was fundamental to us for it to go ahead. It's like now more than ever, with the prize fund, with the 20k for the winner, with the $9 grand, and the runner-up prizes, £1,000 each for the 9 runners-up. That is more important than ever. And regardless of the prize money, the promotional value for the albums And the albums, bearing in mind, when they're celebrated, it's not only about celebrating the artist, it's looking at, you know, who produced that record, what studio it was recorded in, all the ecosystem around it as well. I think that, you know, right now the music industry we all love is under threat, and in a really, really troubled way. Highlighting and celebrating our culture helps articulate its value, and I think it's really, really important that we keep doing that, especially just now, even though celebrating anything might feel quite unnatural just now, but there's a lot to celebrate and we should.
I think there's a few things to say about that. It seems to me that actually listening to music, or, you know, if you're things watching films or reading books, has actually become more important for people during this period. You know, I think that the idea that you need to kind of switch off and have something else take you somewhere else is really important. And you've managed to keep, you had the Longlist event just last week, where you had live bands, you had Nicola and Vic Galloway, you know, talking about the Longlist at the end. I think was a 3-hour event, more than that?
2 hours, yeah, it was 2 hours.
Yeah. And so you still managed to get something on, and you're just having to come up with different ways of doing these things.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? Like, it's been quite interesting, like reimagining how the SEA Award, the events. I mean, live at the Longlist, we essentially just tried to recreate it as close as possible to what the live experience would be. Quite funny doing the script for it this year, you know, Vic and Nicola, we sometimes do call them Vicola, but yeah, Vic and Nicola, normally the line will be, you know, like, right, charge our glasses. This year it was replaced with charge our laptops, for the people at home. It's quite funny, but no, I mean, I guess like creating a program, it opened up a lot of opportunities for us, Ali, you know, like when we do the live event, albeit live events are amazing, and I wholeheartedly missed not being able to do that this year. But what the opportunity that gave us was to, you know, make it much more accessible. There was no, you know, rather than having to pay for a ticket, you could just watch it. Was not about, you know, just how many people can get in the room. The room is unlimited, and it, you know, anyone from anywhere in the world could tune in. And yeah, it's been really, really interesting doing it all kind of virtually this year. But I guess from our end, the priority for us is about digital audience development for the award, but also for all the artists, because now more than ever, that is absolutely key. You know, we need to make sure that in this downtime where our artists can't perform live, we are engaging audiences, we are making, you know, having a larger kind of domestic market for Scottish music, so that once these restrictions are lifted or reduced and live music activity can continue, these artists, there's going to be people wanting to see them, you know. We're really aware of the, you know, probably the lack of consumer confidence there's going to be initially once the restrictions are lifted and stuff, and, you know, making these artists connect with people to the point where it's the most exciting thing ever to see them live is what's going to help kind of redress that balance, I think. So yeah, it's been
You can see people, you know, discovering the albums on the long list or the short list or whatever, and thinking, "Oh, I can't wait to see this band play live." And, you know, some of the bands that I've seen at shows in the past are ones that you go, "I can't wait to get their records." So I mean, it all works together. It's all part of that. With this in mind, have you been surprised at the amount of new music that's been continued to be made during this odd time? Because I have.
Yeah, I have actually. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, I guess, like, you know, income gone, all these restrictions and stuff, but the one thing that artists always have is the ability to create. You know, they're always creating value, essentially, economic, social and cultural, by anything they put out. I think that, yeah, I mean, time-wise, right, when we think of, you know, 2020 being the year this happened, and what maybe the output would have been like if this was, say, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, with how much technology has advanced in recent times and how good a bedroom production can be. You know, C. Duncan's proved that. And I think it's amazing, you know. Interesting thing, I mean, I've been speaking to quite a lot of artists about this recently, and it's the thing that I'm finding quite interesting is like why they're creating just now. You know, is it about trying, you know, is it about creating for art for art's sake, I guess, or is there an anxiety, fear type thing that's pushing it? Like, I need to put stuff out to still, you know, to still retain engagement with my fans, etc. It's really, really interesting. But I think, yeah, I think we'll look back in this period and have a lot to say about the music that came out, and, you know, picking that apart a bit more in the underlying themes and, you know, the kind of social vibe of what's actually been said. It's been, yeah, do you know what, it's been really, really good to see so many people still creating and putting stuff out. Obviously when lockdown initially happened, it was pretty worrying seeing, understandably, but worrying seeing a lot of labels pulling releases, etc. And you can see why, you know, when
Totally, yeah.
tours are tied in to make those releases, you know, generate the revenue that's projected. You can totally see why. But I'm glad that after that initial thing, and it's much more obviously on a DIY kind of indie sense, but people have just been really, really keen to keep putting stuff out, and I think it's been really, really important for a mental health point of view more than anything for people, you know.
I think you're right. I've spoken to a lot of musicians who have, it's you say it's the need to do it. I have to do it. I have to be creative. I have to put this out. And some musicians who previously were perhaps best known for acoustic stuff have looked into how they can do stuff on computers or on keyboards, or just change the way that they're working. And I've seen it as a really positive thing.
Yeah,
difficult to keep positive, but they're kind of managing to do it.
100%. I mean, it's been great seeing artists use platforms like Patreon, etc., and just trying to be a bit more creative in how they can generate revenue, put out new stuff potentially, or do live streams, etc. You know, as I'm sure you felt as well, the initial flurry of everyone doing a live stream, nobody seemingly having a working internet connection, and like, you know, I like at the start seeing all that, I did feel a bit worried, to be honest, because I was like, you know, the more people do this and the more bad experiences of a dodgy live stream, engagement's just going to tank generally for it. But it was really refreshing to see a lot of artists kind of get ahead of that and maybe think, right, what can I do that's a bit more strategic, maybe going down the June route or whatever platform it might be. But you know, I think there's been a lot of creativity and also quite a lot of business strategy from a lot of artists in Scotland that is going to be the thing that will potentially see them through this, because sadly there's still no kind of sign of when things are going to be in any way normal for our music community again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking about new music, can we talk a little bit about your involvement with ICEBLINK LUCK?
Yes.
So they are a new label, I'm delighted to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, ICEBLINK LUCK. It's almost been like years in the making. We launched the company last year, December. Great timing. Had a very different idea of what the future was going to be than how it turned out. But I set up that company in December with Stina Tweedale, Honeyblood, who's been one of my best friends for years, and I've been such a massive fan of everything she does. I think Honeyblood are a really, really great example of the strength of Scottish music.
Absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, me and Stina, it's just one of those relationships, I guess, where we feel like we're really, really in sync with each other. You know, whether it's kind of taste or creative ideas or like strategy. Definitely there was a massive synchronicity in between our outlooks and ambitions, I guess, for what we wanted personally and professionally, and more importantly, on a wider sense of what we wanted our impact to be as music professionals working within Scotland. So yeah, we set up ICEBLINK LUCK. We'd chatted for years on nights out ahead of that, you know, steaming, thinking of all these ideas of things that we do. And yeah, we just decided to do it last December. And the catalyst for doing it was taking on Megan Early, becoming her manager, who is now Ruby Gaines, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a sec. But so initially ICEBLINK LUCK formed as a management company. So we were managing Ruby Gaines, but we also wanted to work as a label as well. So yeah, mainly artist management and record label, only working with Ruby Gaines just now, and over time we'll see how it goes. But I've definitely I've got my hands full enough to make sure that I'm focusing on just one for now.
I was thinking about this when I saw you were involved. I went, right, how's he going to manage? How's he going to manage this? One of these cases where you would start cloning yourself or something like that. But and is ICEBLINK Luck, is that taken from the Cocteau Twins song?
It is indeed, yeah.
I like when I spot these things.
Yeah, me and Stina just love that record, as do most people in Scotland that like good music, I guess. Not even just in Scotland, most people like good music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, our logo is like two skeletons kissing, and initially I wanted my idea for the company initially was going to call it Saliva Like Glue, which is a line from Fall Forever, Honeyblood song, with emphasis on the skeletons kissing for the logo. I really like that saliva like glue, the metaphor, and like what everything that symbolised. But Stina very quickly told me that that song's about her ex and she does not want to reference that. So we kept the logo and switched to ICEBLINK Luck. But it's been great. I mean, I don't really have much time to put into it, to be honest. I use anything I can scrape, I guess, at nights and weekends, etc. But it's especially just now with so many challenges for the industry, working on something that feels so new and so positive, and ultimately for someone who I think is absolutely incredible, Ruby Gaines, I'll make the time, I'll find the time, I'll magic the time. She deserves the time. So
absolutely. So previously Megan Early, now Ruby Gaines, massive fan of her stuff. I just think she's got an incredible voice and an incredible songwriter too. Let's talk about Ruby Gaines then, and Cardamom, which is the single. How did that come about then, in terms of why did you decide to change the name and change the, did that all come from herself, or was it an idea that you kind of all had a stake in?
Yeah, so it came about. So Megan, when Megan was playing as Megan Early, she'd had a fake kind of alter ego SoundCloud, where she would post like demos and stuff on. So some people kind of knew about it under the surface, and it was called Ruby Gaines. And I always thought the name sounded so cool. I thought it had a vibe to it. And then Megan had, as you know, Ali, like put out some stuff under her own name, and then there was like a year or so maybe where she hadn't had much activity, and we were out chatting one night, and she was telling me, wanting to get back doing more music stuff, but wanted to do it quite differently to what she'd done before. And us just kind of chatting about it. I suggested to her about potentially reimagining what who she is as an artist and doing something quite creative and bold. So like she had quite a strong idea of what she wanted the sound to be. Most of her main influences are dead. But it's people like Jeff Buckley and Billie Holiday and Judy Garland, and then some alive people too, like Fiona Apple. But the strength of her vocal, it's just like I could well up even thinking about it. It gives me the most intense shivers of any voice I've listened to, and it, probably the personal relationship I have with her comes into that as well. But like you said, an outstanding songwriter, a voice that sounds like it's from another time. And Ruby Gaines as a name, she actually posted a blog post about this yesterday on our website, rubygaines.com, for anyone listening. But the name actually is it's an amalgamation of her two grands' names. So one of her grands was called Ruby Early, the other one was called Margaret Gaines, and she's joined the two. And her, she talks about our two grands as these two incredible women. When the blog post, I don't know if you've read it, I hope you can if you've got the time, but the way she talks about them, they sound really incredible, inspiring, confident, amazing women. And her taking our kind of namesake from combining both their names and the confidence she feels and pulling all her years of experience as an artist, plus working with me and Stina together. She's now became Ruby Gaines, and I think it's a lovely tribute to her grands, as well as the coolest fucking artist name I've heard in a long time. So
Actually,
Yeah.
I was looking earlier on at our site and I saw the two pictures, but I didn't clock that's who it was. So I'm going to have to go back and read that. That's brilliant. And did you say, well, was this a because I'm looking at the character, you see it's a different image. There's fantastic kind of boldness about the whole project. Was this something that everyone envisaged having a live presence as well? And unfortunately, that can't happen at the moment. But is that something that, because that's what it says to me, that this is long term, and one, this is something that's going to have real impact.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Ali. So yeah, she's got a live band that she'll be playing with, and you'll have heard from the track. It's like a massive departure to the Megan early sound. You know, the overriding thing that connects it all together is her vocal. And like, I mean, you've heard Cardamom, the other songs that are to come. I think a lot of people are going to be quite surprised about the versatility, I guess, of it. The overriding, it's almost, I don't want to give too much away.
No,
but,
no, I understand. I understand.
The vocal is the thing that connects them, but yeah, very, very interesting sounds, I think. And a lot of that came from working with the producer we worked with on the tracks as well, Stephen A. Watkins, mixed by Saw, as he's also known. But you know, Stephen, the first time I came across Stephen was you know, the Teen Canteen record, Say It All With a Kiss. The first time I heard that record, I was blown away by the production on it.
Sure.
That song, Dancing, Hey You, that one especially. And then upon investigating it, realising that was recorded in mono, and then by this mad wizard sound guy. And yeah, when speaking to Megan and working out, you know, what she wanted the Ruby Gaines sound to be, and Stephen felt like a very natural fit for where she wanted to go with it, and how me and Stina felt we could help establish a really great career for her. So working with him was fantastic, and it's really, he's played a significant part in helping develop what has become the Ruby Gaines sound. So yeah, live shows are definitely to come, Ali. Both Megan playing with this kind of supporting live band, and she'll do solo stuff as well. You know, Ruby Gaines as an act will be presented with the backing band, but yeah, she'll definitely do some solo Ruby stuff as well, and I'm so excited about it all. It's a really, really great thing for what is genuinely, in my opinion, an absolutely outstanding artist who really deserves a shot.
Oh, I completely agree. And I have to say, when I first heard Cardamom, I can't say it, when I first heard it, it's the voice, that's what you recognise, you know, so this is a bit of a departure. I can't wait to hear the next stuff, but you know, that voice just will kind of hit you every time, without a doubt. Well, we're going to hear it in a minute, I'm delighted to say, so everyone else can hear how great it is. But first of all, I want to say thanks, Robert, for talking to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, man, and thank you for everything you do to support Scottish music, Scottish wider culture. I think you're incredible. I know a lot of people do. So it's great work, Ali, and thank you very much for inviting me on.
Oh, cheers, man. That's definitely getting kept in. Cheers, and we'll be back soon with someone completely different. But in the meantime, this is Ruby Gaines and Cardamom.
Why your skin, the pale yellow comes within. To fashion like a victim, and why? Oh, you tell me what to do to please you. You smell like cardamom, you left it on my pillow. And that's why